Flyer Series Volume 3, The Only Game in Town, Chapter 18. And there are 23, I believe, 23 chapters. You got 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Daniel Robot Bailey. Alright, and I'm reading ahead again. I get, sometimes I get, just to practice stuff. Then when I read ahead, I can't remember if I read it or not, because I read it. But I know I just checked this. The last chapter I did was 17, so today we're doing 18, titled Daniel Robot Bailey. The Super Summer Party was a big success. Since school was going to start the next Tuesday, everyone was going to end the summer by having as much fun as possible. They had the party of various medalists because he ruined the pool party with Craig and whoever her name is. Saturday morning came with the excitement that the Goliath Sports League tournament had arrived at last. The playoff games would be that morning, and that evening the award ceremony and cookout would take place. After eating a dinner of hamburgers and hot dogs and lemonade, the superstar teams would be recognized. Trophies and prizes would be handed out to each player on those teams, courtesy of Goliath Industries. More than anything, Daniel wished he were sick that Saturday morning. He almost wished he were stuck in his old wheelchair, because then he would just sit out the whole mess and no one would care. Daniel groaned. Even without the wheelchair, he felt almost paralyzed from the people and things that kept pulling him in opposite directions. He got out of bed slowly and sighed as he walked toward the upstairs bathroom. Having a rank, especially a coveted rank like the top position on the point system, wasn't anything like the boy had imagined it would be. No matter how hard he tried, he knew something was wrong deep inside himself. All during the party, he couldn't stop thinking about what the Cobra Club had done to the pool and what they were going to do that day at the big tournament game. Cheat. Daniel wanted to just climb back in bed and sleep so he wouldn't have to think about it. Denise was already dressed and pressed in her clean jersey. She was stationed in front of the bathroom mirror, anxiously trying to hide any blemish or spot on her face that might cause her to lose points. She had the latest copy of Pretty You magazine propped up on the sink. A picture of a perfect face was staring up out of the pages. Denise was looking at the face, then trying to add makeup in just the right places so her own face would be perfect too. Daniel watched her without speaking. Then he went downstairs. His mother was drinking coffee. She urged him to hurry and get ready. She didn't want them to be late. You could lose points for being late for an important date. Daniel did as he was told, though not as fast as his mother wanted. He ate breakfast by himself, then got dressed. He absolutely hated putting on the uniform of the Rockets. He felt as if they were prison clothes. He put on his long white and blue socks. He rubbed the ugly red and purple scars at the bottom of his right leg. His leg was aching and sore, but not so sore that he couldn't play in the game, darn. He tied the laces of his shoes tightly, took a deep breath, then stood and walked out of his room, as if he were going to his doom. He walked out of his room like he was going to his doom. His mother wanted him to drive him to the athletic field where the tournament was being held. Denise was already in the car. Daniel wanted to ride his bike. He stood beside the car door, arguing with his sister and mother. "But you'll get sweaty and stinky if you ride your bike," Denise complained. "I just don't think it's a good idea. I've heard of several kids who have lost points because of sweating too much. You're not supposed to let people see you sweat, according to some rules." "Oh, dry up," Daniel said. "Everyone sweats when it's hot or when they play hard." "But this is before the game," Denise said primly. "You may not care about how you look, but I do. And since you're my brother, it doesn't seem fair to me for you to act the way you do. You're number one now, and you have to act a little bit different when you're in such a good position." "I think Denise has a point, Dan," Mrs. Bailey said. "A little sweat at the wrong time can be embarrassing. And you need to develop a strategy to protect that top rank. A lot of children would like to be in your position." Daniel started to protest, but then he stopped. For an instant he felt a twinge of fear that someone would take away his high position. He realized how much he did care deep down about his rank. "You may not care about yourself, but at least you could consider Denise in all of this," his mother said. Daniel felt a painful tug at every word. "I promise I will pedal slow enough so I don't sweat," Daniel said. His mother and Denise looked at him with doubtful eyes and sighed. Then his mother started the car and pulled out of the driveway. Daniel went back inside his house and slowly walked up to his room. His number card was on his dresser. He looked at the big number 1. Then, without knowing why, Daniel went to his closet and got out the wooden milk box with his most secret possessions. He opened the lock, combination lock, and lifted the lid. The Spirit Flyer vision goggles were lying on top of his copy of the Book of the Kings. Daniel picked up both items. "I wish I knew what to do," Daniel said and sighed. He opened the old book and flipped through the pages. Several pages had been marked with an ink pen. Daniel looked down at one story. It was about the king's son and the time he had been tempted to become a traitor by treason, the enemy. Treason offered the whole world as a reward if the king's son would bow down to treason, only the king's son refused. Daniel closed the book sadly. He was going to put the things away when he looked at the goggles. In a flash, he took the goggles and number card and ran to the bathroom. He stood before the full-length mirror on the back of the bathroom door. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and slipped the goggles on. Please let me see what I need to see, Daniel wished to the kings. Then he opened his eyes. At first he wanted to scream, but he was paralyzed with fear. In the mirror, around his head was a swarm of black, shadowy snakes. They seemed to just cover his shoulders, feasting and biting. There was also a host of the leech-like serpents wrapped around the bottom of his short right leg. Daniel stared in silent horror at the reflection of himself. For the first time in a long time, he suddenly realized that he was dying deep inside, and that the snakes were slowly draining the life from his body. You can see the mess at the bottom. His right leg. He realized for the first time in a long time, he suddenly realized that he was dying deep inside, that the snakes were slowly draining the life from his body. There was a light that seemed to be coming out of his chest from his heart, but the light was mostly hidden by the snakes and the heavy chain. Daniel stared at the glimpses of light and felt a faint hope. Instantly the light seemed brighter. Something about the light seemed very different, as if it were special or expensive. Daniel couldn't decide until he remembered a movie he had seen about some kings. The kings wore crowns of gold so bright the light they reflected almost seemed like royal light. That's what this light seemed like to the boy, a royal light. But if it was royal light, he was drowning in the darkness of the squirming snakes. Daniel felt a great heaviness inside as he stared at himself. For the first time, he was willing to admit to himself that he had allowed this to happen. That by making a deal with Mrs. Happy and going along with the Cobra Club initiation test, he had somehow sold himself back into the slavery of the chain. At that moment, the great chain stretched tight. Daniel shuddered as he saw the chain going straight down into his hand, disappearing into the darkness of the number card. The chain tugged and tugged again as Daniel heard laughter coming from the number card. That's when he couldn't look anymore. He pulled off the goggles. He went to his room, threw the goggles on the bed. For a moment, Daniel thought he would just explode. He was being pulled in so many different directions. He felt as if he would be pulled apart. He wanted to cry, but then remembered that he could lose points if someone saw him crying. They would think he was a sissy because big boys weren't supposed to cry. That was a rule in the point system. Daniel felt as if he were a prisoner to so many things you couldn't see or fight back against. He didn't think it was fair. For the first time, he truly realized why it was called a ghost slave. You couldn't grab that person because he was out of reach deep inside you. The boy sighed and put the number card in his pocket. God bless me. Sorry about that. He put the number card back in his pocket and he went downstairs. You can't fight it, he said in deep discouragement. He got on his Super Wings bicycle. You can't fight something you can't see, and there's no way to win anyhow. You end up being ranked blank, an outsider and an oddball. Daniel rode to the field, feeling dead inside. He pedaled the bicycle mechanically, just like a robot. That's what he decided he was, a kind of human robot following a dotted line of points. He pedaled down the middle of the street, right on top of the painted dotted line that led all the way to the Centerville school grounds. The tournament field was a place of celebration. Banners and bright balloons flew in the air. Many voices were blaring out instructions from the loudspeakers attached to telephone poles. Everywhere you looked were children in uniforms, prancing and moving as if they were anxious springs ready to shoot into space. Daniel leaned against the pole. He saw the rockets gathered together at the end of the field. He walked over slowly, his limp seeming more painful at every step. He joined his team members and did what he was supposed to do to warm up. Daniel Robot Bailey, he would just act. He bitterly told himself he was a slave. The ghost inside had won. His mother and sister had won. The Cobra Club had won. Mrs. Happy had won. The point system had won. He won the top rank, but he was beaten. Not only had the point system won, but so did the rockets. Barry scored 3 goals. The goalie had just missed the ball each time. Daniel knew why. He stopped more goal attempts once the Rockets were safely ahead. But Daniel knew. When the whistles blew and the game was over, Daniel jumped up and cheered like the other boys, but it was the robot that jumped, not Daniel. "We did it, Red," Barry shouted, dancing around. "We're the superstars, all the way. We're the superstars now, all the way. I can't wait to see the prizes we get. I hope we get some cash. I'm saving up to buy a Goliath Super Wings." Mrs. Happy said she may be getting some in the store soon. Daniel was surprised by the news, although he hated to admit it. He wondered if Barry would get to be number 1 again if he had a Super Wings bicycle too. For an instant, Daniel felt a tug of fear deep inside. He remembered too well. The days and weeks of being ranked blank. "I may be getting some good attachments for my Super Wings," Daniel told Barry. "Mrs. Happy told me about them." "Really?" Barry asked. Daniel could tell that the president of the Cobra Club looked worried. Somehow that made Daniel feel better inside. Before Barry could worry long, he got some good news. He was selected as the most valuable player for the game because of his 3 goals. And as the coaches counted up the statistics, it also turned out that Barry had scored the most goals during the whole sports league season. Daniel wondered how much each goal had cost in money and points. The boys were shouting and laughing and slapping each other on the back. Coach Goober was smiling and scratching his hairy chest and legs. "We won, we won," the boys all began to shout at once. "We won, we won." Daniel joined in the chorus of the victory shout, but he couldn't continue. He tried to cheer, then a wave of guilt came over him, the boy. He knew the team had cheated, and he felt bad. He still felt bad about the mess he had helped create at the pool. Every part of his body screamed out, "Foul, foul." He knew the boys hadn't won at all. They were just like him, slaves and robots, mere puppets attached by their chains to the big board. None of them had won a thing. The real official winner of the summer was the point system. While the cheering continued, Daniel slipped away from the crowd. Nothing seemed to add up anymore. He pedaled home slowly, counting his losses. That's it. Sorry. Chapter 19, The Moment of Glory. Hinting that something good is going to happen. And that is about 6 pages. If I do this, I need to be sure and mark it in the thing. Nah, I'm tired. Good night. God bless everybody. See if anybody's on. Getty Anton. Oh, hey, Grant Bennett, how you doing there, buddy? What's Flat Bennett? Grant? Oh, you silly man. Go to my other channel, Flat Earth Homeland, and move here. Early on in the discussion of Flat Earth, somebody made the comment that there should be a place where all of us can go and live in community, live closer to each other. And I said, yeah, there is. My main message in this channel is there's the land of Goshen, a big giant castle, a big gargantuan fortress right smack dab in the middle of the United States, the continental United States. 500 miles from Canada, 500 miles from Mexico, 500 miles from the Appalachians, and 500 miles from the Rockies. Those are the east and west coasts, by the way. So, as things change in the geography and the geological construction of the United States changes, which it will, this is right in the middle. So, it's Flat Earth Homeland. It's a vaccine-free homeland. 40 million people are not vaccinated in this country. Come here where you won't be a problem. You want to believe in flat Earth? Move here. There's a lot of people here that believe the Earth is a globe. That's okay. They'll understand the truth eventually. I don't believe it's flat. I know it's flat. Flat Earth, yeah. YouTube channel Flat Earth Homeland. Yeah, go to that channel and look at it. Yeah. Anyway, I don't deal with it on this channel that much just because there's too much controversy and, why buck the system? Yeah. But, and I don't do much videos on that channel either. I don't keep up with like uploading everything I do to that channel, but there's enough there to poke around and learn a little bit. On this channel, however, I will say this: I have 300 playlists. 300 playlists on Flat Earth. Just do a search for this with them under my channel, and then Flat Earth, all in capital letters, Flat Earth, colon, not semicolon, colon, and then see what pulls up. It should pull up a bunch. Or go to my playlist and just scroll down through my playlist. There's 300 Flat Earth playlists. Yeah, that's a lot. A lot to be said on the top subject. It's the most complicated thing and yet the most simplest thing I've ever seen. You can say it in 5 words, 4 words. No curve, no ball. No curve, question mark, no ball, exclamation point. Or no curve, exclamation point, no ball, exclamation point. Can't prove curvature. Nobody's ever done it. They've had 7 years now to prove curvature some way, but haven't done it. No proof. Just all semantics and bullshit and 2,000-year-old experiments and just math and subterfuge and whatnot. No truth, no proof, no film, no video, no nothing. They say the same thing on the other half, but whatever. It's on there. Okay, see you guys. Bye-bye. God bless.